Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are getting back set up here in the Peace and Harmony studios after some time away. It has been a long journey as I kind of wrap up my arm here, and some time since we have posted. So I really have been receiving like a number of requests to get back in the saddle, back going again, with our content, with our vital discussions. I apologize that I had to put it from play to pause for so long. I had a number of things come up with health issues, and I broke my right wrist, which of course, you know, you're going to use just for about everything, requiring surgery, etc. So I was like casted up for some time, and now I'm just doing the healing. It's supposed to be immobilized, but I think we're okay to get back on and ride this horse and gallop off into the distance. Basically, the dawning of really what is your happiness and empowerment, and knowing what that space is and what it feels like within you when you're feeling like maybe you're immersed and enmeshed in a relationship that you can't see clearly. The boundaries are always moving. Perhaps there's a lot of lack of trust developing with this relationship, erratic behavior, impulsive behavior. You know, or especially now, what I really kind of want to get into is like, you know, really the immersion in these really thought and life-changing like Tik Tok behaviors, especially like of young people, and how this creates an isolation and a problem. It's really from a paradigm that is very much in parallel with the topics that we discussed here, which is like psychopathy and toxic people, narcissism, covert narcissism, all these terms that we throw around, but really just end up weighing heavy. And like, it's like a compression or the creation of a diamond. The longer it compresses, the longer and heavier it becomes. And it becomes really, you know, sort of condensed and compacted in the body itself, if you will. Because the pressure, if you go through traumatizing events where you're sort of left out and separated from a feeling of belonging. Belonging feels foreign to you. Certain places of feeling good, you keep pushing away, or it doesn't feel good. You start to mess it up. You start sabotaging yourself or your behavior. You just feel like you want to run wild and explode, and it just sort of can rip you out, you know, from the inside like a warrior, like the Incredible Hulk or whatever. All these titanium pod breaker, whatever all these like games are about, you know, in these TikTok self-image videos. And it's like how people are supposed to be just like waving their hair in the wind and breaking rules as if it's like they're engaging in some frontier. And oftentimes this creates like mistreatment of people, things, bank accounts, your talent, your gifts, your I am. It really starts to erode and corrupt, and really it's your perspective. It's this digital divide, you know, that is created, especially when you talk about psychopathy. And we've talked about psychopathy in business, whether it's male or female. And I have this, I guess this scarf is not going to stay on. I am growing to accept that experience as I try to inflict more tension for myself than it is required or necessary. This is kind of like the paradigm of, you know, traumatizing and then like the ripple effects, which can't, these, you know, these virtual, these TikTok self-image videos, all the different news media that have these like 4-second flashes, and you're supposed to like read something. It's going to your limbic brain, your emotional body. It's giving you these like little emotional outbursts, or, you know, pleasure, desire, sort of excitement, thrills. What is that? What is that? And it's always, you know, either an image of something or someone, you know, with a body, or with a body, you know, with, you know, chest, you know, is like sculpted out as if they've, you know, been whittling away at themselves with a silver spoon all day to sculpt out their body and flake out, you know, any sort of imperfections. You know, you know, all that ensues, sort of enslave into. So it very much mimics and parallels much of the relationship dynamics, which is very interesting, because one of the you know, one of the problems of coming through that trauma is like knowing, you know, how to hold your space and your stance on certain things. And while you're sort of used to being bombarded with self-memorized and self-rehearsed criticism and sort of, you know, insinuating negative remarks, either about, you know, how imperfect you are, or, you know, you're taking someone's criticism, basically, you know, it's just like you know, it's like a volcanic eruption. Oftentimes people who are toxic, they are prone to wanting to be in control, in your face, stuffing it in your face, you know, and you don't have a chance to say no, because they've already got you by, you know, they've already got you. That was like an old Rolling Stones song. Man, that's one from the vault. Like, they've already got you from that reaction state. See, and like with TikTok or psychopathic relationships, you'll know that you're suffering if it's like always like a chronic, just sort of emotional quakiness, or can be fidgety, can be manifested as obsessive compulsive eating, drinking, chewing one's nails, picking at one's skin, or, you know, just sort of burying one's emotions with other things rather than dealing with them, because it's such a foreign territory. It's like a foreign territory within, you know. And so when we talk about really the TikTok marrying the psychopathic world, you know, this was a viewer question, and we are back. So if you have any questions, like, leave them in, you know, the comments. But, you know, when we talk about psychopathy, rather than throwing, you know, terms around, I want you to kind of think about more like your experience and how it's held or resonated in the body, because, you know, and then the mind and then the heart electricity is sort of damaging the prefrontal cortex, where you have a dream and a vision to be happy. So it sort of puts up a screen, if you will, like as if you've ever seen, you know, like ash, you know, it's so thick it creates a cloud, or an overcast day in Chicago where, you know, it's gray and you've got these cumulus clouds and they're weighing heavy and they're sort of threatening, but then they might have a little tinge of white or silver lining, and then the sea is roaring. In other words, your guttural is roaring, you know, you're seething. These are some, you know, intense words that you begin to feel and can articulate, so hence the bottling up and compression and compounding within. And this can create a lot of what Dr. Joe Dispenza would be, you know, call, like, if you rehearse that again and again, it becomes like you're teaching learned helplessness to yourself. So a lot of these negative messages, I am, so you're not, like the Kim Kardashian, somehow you've got pink flowing hair down to your buttocks, and your you know, your curves, you know, you can't be compared. That Sinead, you know, O'Connor song, no one compares to you. I mean, so in other words, you feel that you're lost out of a crowd. You can't be compared to. You don't have a companion to be compadre with, like, who can be with you in just sort of some raw, real, and like some positive evocative moments. So it's like lighting that inner fire which then ignites the prefrontal cortex in that part of your brain where you can dream and envision and be and feel again and just be happy for no reason. You know, carry yourself with pride. Your life is then blooming and growing, and you don't feel in, you know, what happens is not, you know, even just the removal of certain of these negative states that create this negative defining and constant rehearsing and rememorizing. Dr. Joe Dispenza would call basically, you know, you're rehearsing and rememorizing these like quick emotions, you know, that are guttural in nature, beyond your control, beyond your perception, and beyond your ability to control. So it's like they create, you are the runaway train. Like you become, you know, like the Ozzy Osbourne song, whatever it starts out with, Crazy Train. I mean, and you're like, what? It's very scary. Your life can become alarmingly out of control. Your feeling within yourself to control your inner states might be, you might become and feel ineffective at controlling and getting to where you want to be. In other words, like where you thought you were going to be and where you are is like there's a big gap or discrepancy, and you can't explain it. And you know in your heart that you're supposed to be somewhere else, you know, but you can't articulate it, and so you don't decide. You start giving up and start losing control of your decisiveness, your decision-making properties, you know, that are natural and inherent and are going to get you in the right direction if you could only listen, heed, acknowledge, and act. Oftentimes that, you know, comes in the span of 5 seconds. So we have to really speed it down to speed it up. And so because a lot of this is so socially validated, you know, it's so socially validating when, oh, you know, you got somebody who's really fast. Well, gosh, that makes you, you know, you're greatly skilled as a programmer, you know, as designing those algorithms, because you can just do the binary in, out, on, off. It becomes very binary, meaning one or this. There's no shades of gray. You know, and then you begin to really lose control, and it very much mirrors, I would say, the path, trajectory, and experience in a relationship with a narcissist, or even more intense, you know, the situation is even more intense when you start getting with someone who's psychopathic, you know, getting into that range where it doesn't have a conscience, which is kind of like what the Tik Tok does. Your attention is just can't get off. It's like you're looking at someone's belly button and you can't stop slobbering. I mean, or you're looking at somebody's little piece of their highlighting on their shoulder of a guy, and it's selling cologne like by the billions. You know, there's some little, and they've studied this. They've done, and what I'm trying to help you people see is the parallel and relationship of this real divide and suppression, what becomes then a self-accepted, self-reflected, meaning it becomes a self-initiated and self-rewarded and self-aggrandizement to further be allured into the, you know, into that impulsive, which has nothing to do with the true happiness, acceptance, and pulls you further off base, and then pretty much there's a snap, you know, and then people get too much, they're living basically in that world, and they, you know, especially the pandemic has really escalated it, meaning all which, you know, a lot of events which used to be in person, be it like a meeting, be it a mass service or a religious service or a class online, your education where you actually used to go and congregate with people. Remember that when it, you know, there, you know, but then a fear on that very, very sort of experience got ground in and like was now forbidden. For, you know, not, you know, rejected. So in other words, rejecting that whole social experience, because otherwise it could infect you. You could be responsible for making someone sick. and and so it got you from that limbic, because obviously we don't want to hurt or maim. Most people do not want to hurt or maim intentionally somebody with a virus that they known had that could be a killing, like HIV virus. It was at that level of intensity and urgency, and it's in that really level. But even though it becomes natural because they're triggering you, they're creating this layer to supplant the natural, healthy. We're talking in your body, in yourselves, down to the point where it cannot be broken down any further. We're talking the quantum field here, and the quantum, basically where it has you by, I think the Rolling Stones song, they got you by the balls, or whatever they used to say. I don't know, maybe they did that in the 70s or 60s. I just remember it on an old record LP. See how quickly life changes in your lifetime, but now time is being compressed, meaning what used to be like in a year now can be compressed either in learning or experience down to a couple of months. Because of the whole advent of technology, people are squeezing more in, and it becomes like this hoarding of, whatever your attention is drawn to and is feeding into and being fed by, but you don't realize that there's a manipulation taking place. Like the TikTok, they want more time for you. They want you to always be thinking about Facebook or whatever, and so that's very much a parallel. In fact, I feel even times from the ownership CEO down, oftentimes people of those platforms were in highly intellectual settings, most settings, where they might have gone to school or otherwise, that most people cannot even go to because of their IQ. And, oftentimes it's demonstrable of certain, oftentimes, the psychopathy can be from the top down, and many are drawn to and flourish and thrive in these environments where they can take advantage. I was looking at the Cranes, for the area, the wealthiest CEOs. What are they raking in? 18 million a year. Okay, over $1 million a month. Does that seem a little excessive? Could they, give some back? I'm just stating that you have to understand that oftentimes people with psychopathic tendencies, meaning they want to disarm people from their prefrontal cortex, and they want to engage them in the limbic emotional brain, which is like the reptilian mind, meaning it's really old and ancient within you. And to me, you have to give the self that reverence for evolution and turn it back around and honor and respect yourself. Like, get back, because your limbic brain is sacred ground to me when it comes to your health, your meaning in life, your relationships, how happy you are, what professions you choose, who you find yourself around, what industries people in the business are. I want to be the glamour, pulling up with a Lamborghini in pink or royal blue, whatever it's going to be. You know what I'm saying? It's this limbic. It's the limbic, but it's not the limbic for your good, which is clarity, transparency, authenticity, trust. All these things are being masqueraded by the TikTok, meaning they're taking a new level of authority over people, meaning they're platforms that, quote unquote, can help you to do so much. Doesn't the psychopath or narcissist in your life trigger the same response? Because they can help me do so much, because together, because when I support them, I get that feel good. It soothes my trauma. See, there's it continues a cycle of self-sabotage, self-harm, turning to them for the solution, the feedback, the love. The desire in you is for nothing, but it becomes an addiction, and one that really becomes to take rule and credence over your life. And this is then surpassing or sublimating, as was a Freudian term, your subliminal mind. So in other words, when you talk about like subliminal marketing, you know, in other words, oh, we can tell, you know, but in other words, there's this real negative loop that is, you know, that's getting your attention. In other words, you know, you need this headline, you need this text, you need this picture, you need this outing, you need this vacation, you need, you know, and then it creates like a tunnel vision, and really you're lost in the sauce. Yourself is beyond recognition. You're afraid to look in the mirror. You don't match up. Where you wanted to be and feel and know you have the potential is a big gap. And this, you know, is a feeling that it haunts you every day. And it's, you know, so relationships that are healthy should not feel like they're haunting you. They should not feel like they're putting a dark cloud or a opaque shield of ash around you that you can't like really get your bearing with, and you're just like always pulled off track by, and it's getting worse. This is not going to be like, oh, guess what? You know, the top psychopaths all got together. They've had a change of heart, and they're going to now change their platform to make sure that you're really private and secure, and that you're not being marketed to in this way. Whatever it might be. In other words, it's the same false promises, but the problem is the masquerading of the real, of the unreal, masking to be the real, the one, the thing, the answer, the fantasy, you know, whatever it is that you are basically finding yourself in a whirlwind down from. It's a pattern, unfortunately, you know, with a psychopath that is pre-calculated, premeditated, predetermined from, it's like a playbook. I mean, they could flip it around. And namely, it's causing you to be attracted to your own self-rejection. In other words, it's like getting you to go for something and claw at something, and you finally feel like you're getting ahead, but then you go down even more. And then, you know, then you think you're really going up, but then you know, and it's really meant, you know, exhaustion and feeling that you have to maintain something, a feeling of exhaustion. Just beyond trying to, you know, you have to go through like recovery. That's why I talk, yes, we've got the content rolling forward on the recovery book. We're getting back to all the tools, but I want to help you to understand how this new authority, like this viewer inquiry was asking, you know, how does this become sort of almost like a chip that is unknowingly embedded within you to kind of run the show for you? In other words, you're not running the show. Some other drive, you know, is like sort of, it's like beyond, it's super good. It's super real. It's, you got so many hearts. You got a new, shinier heart. In fact, now the heart is 3D. Now it's got sparkles. Now it's floating. Now it's got a butterfly and a ribbon, and then, you know, now it's pounding, and like, you know, bigger and smaller hearts are coming out, you know. So in other words, your limbic brain is getting coached, conditioned, and it's getting saturated, and then it's just saying, I like you, you know, you're already on the impulse. You see, that's how they get you, and they get you so close so that you don't have the right to any self. You don't have the right to any boundaries. You don't have the right to any you. You don't even know what you feels like, you know, and then you could be just a rubber Gumby for all you know, because that's how they treat you. They're kind of supplanting a psychopathic sort of mindset in you, like an emotional tea bag. They're steeping you in it through the course of the relationship. And it might have been a long or short time in, and it might be how long or short would you like it to get out and get to be in feeling what you would call safe, me, real, I accept me, I'm all good, no problem, you know, the coast is good, the coast is clear. No, the coast never feels clear, you know, because you're always trying to, you're in that lack of control mentality. Like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I used to live in a suburb out here, used to say, what did he used to say? Gosh, I just had a, Think and Grow Rich. Yes, in other words, when it becomes toxic, when you know how to say, how do you determine is enough or is too much, is when he would say, you know, with people who are drinking, he could do like 2 or 3, but beyond that, consistently then the drink was drinking him, meaning the bottle of wine isn't going into you, you're going into the bottle, you know, and how many bottles deep in, how many months in, how many, you know, reinforced self-sabotaging and self-predatory and self sort of lying, you know, pathological sort of relationship fringe do you want to exist on? It does not feel like it's all wound up and tight and solid. There's always feeling like there's something that's loose. There's something that could go off and it's like got the corner of your eye, you know. But how you can't, I mean, that's a hyper vigilant state. Your body is not meant to live there. However, Tik Tok and some, like that psychopathically run organization, experience, whatever, it's designed to be there. So, you know, in other words, like vacation, it used to be because you could vacate or empty your mind. You could just be. And that would, you know, that's the gift of a relationship or of a vacation, you know, and you could like let go of all the other constraints. You know, these platforms have so many constraints, and you don't realize because it's a gradual and continual embedding and accepting. Do you accept this update? You know, this password, now this. I mean, there's so many different things that you begin, you know, which seems to be good and lacking in the relationship. The problem becomes when it could be nothing further from the truth. I mean, you know, you could have a huge community, you know, in all these followings. You know, we don't have to recite all the followers, but in other words, the psychopathic, the charmers, the predatory relationship where, you know, if you can begin to get perspective and you can begin to say the gap ain't that bad. You know, I can begin to tread back a little bit. I can begin to get some earthing going. Plant your feet outside. You know, when you're really sort of trying to unplug, there's a lot of good techniques. Minimalism, earthing. I mean, these are just two concepts that we can get into in the course of our discussion today. And I am going to be doing, you know, this platform has been pretty good, but it requires a lot of work, and there's a lot of different things that go on with the channel that takes a lot of sort of maintenance and like protection here. So I am going to be moving some more of these vital discussions to Patreon. From the research that I've done and heard, it's a lot more secure, and you know, we can have these vital discussions of these topics that no one else seems to get, feels that maybe you're being too sensitive or you're complaining or just let it go. That's who they are. This is how it always is. You know, life is always, you know, change is, life is always going to be this way. Go along, you know, for those people who have told you, who don't really get it, they don't get the fear, they don't get the trepidation, they don't get the cruelty, they don't get the rejection, basically that you know, newly created sort of spiral or tornado of anxiety within you that can take you and unhinge you from whatever dwelling you are in and send you into, you know, basically exploding, erratic, you know, and oftentimes these are at the throes of technology and what technology makes people do. Am I right? I mean, it's, and people, you know, then they become so much, you know, they're catering to the sort of the digital image, the digital personality to whatever extent, be it professional, be it whatever is on your Facebook. You know, in other words, it's your representation of you. But it's just like if you did a painting of you, couldn't you do another, you know? So it becomes this sort of counter reality that people are then trying to live with and for incessantly 24/7 with the phone under the pillow, on the nightstand. It's the first thing that they greet in the day. Forget if there's a person, a songbird, a beautiful sunrise, a gorgeous wind blowing the trees outside. You're going to miss it because you got to check to make sure yourself is still online, your bank account is still online, what happened to whatever, because that impulse, that limbic system, as supplants or sublimates, basically the Freudian term, what means when it takes the place of another relationship. And it becomes a false you or a facade, which we talk about is the tool of the psychopath, is that sort of false self that appears real, that you then cater to, live in, and try to satisfy, which is really a task and also causes people to disembody themselves, leave themselves in a tank. I mean, as if they are made of armory, and this motion, you know, is like they're getting themselves in like this sort of digital tank where they feel invincible. And then if something happens, they don't know how to cope. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to function or, you know, talk to people because they're so used to whatever quips. And then they're trying to then, it's becomes so bottled up, and then they act really weird. People going off. You know, the psychopath, you know, things that normally make people irate, angry, and, you know, create anxiety. The psychopath does not have that vibe. It's as if they were a guitar. They don't got strings that play that. They don't got those notes on their flute. They're not singing, you know, skip too much. They're not hearing it, feeling it, and they never will. They do not experience fear. So it gives them the ability to, even though most, you know, any moral person wouldn't do that, or, you know, or have a heart, have a feeling, or like your normal needs, like, yeah, let's get together in person. Let's hold hands, or let's, you know, touch shoulders, or is it okay to be in an intimate space together? You know, the psychopath has a premeditated and predetermined sort of entry, you know, launch on, you know, just sort of get on, you know, where they're getting you onto their program, and then they're, you know, you're embarking, you know, into their program, and then next thing you know, you're in their program, and they're basically programming you to feel, be, react, live, decide, and move in that way to satisfy their sort of disembowelment of you, if you will. They take that inner, imagine someone removing your I am, the sort of the core of all you are, but in a large sense, sort of an excavation and an uprooting of like your I am, just whatever that is, and saying that doesn't matter, you can't have that, you should, you know, and then you feel that you're then going to always be stuck in this sort of grayed out area where you can't just move, flow, smile, laugh, thrive, have professional growth, creative growth, because you're always being stopped by this, you know, it's a energy. What I'm trying to explain is it's an energetic block that literally, you know, stops you from going forward. And, you know, you become just sort of bowing to them or bowing to this technology or the image because it's bigger than life. It's bigger than you. It's, connected to the world. I mean, all these different values are simultaneously being supplanted and planted in you, seeds of an I am, which isn't sort of in the gut. So it's the disembowelment of inside the body. It's like your head, they've just sort of taken you off like a cork, and they're supplanting your cork, and you think that you're bobbing along when basically you're becoming sort of run by some of these platforms or these people. And believe it or not, that's how they want it. They are running, they want you, to be that beholden by them, to be that embraced, rather than allowing your true self to fully be embraced. I mean, it's not for your good. It's not for your benefit. But a lot of people make the mistake. There's an erroneous thinking that they make that, well, if I get some sort of thumbs up emoji, maybe the heart is thicker the next time. Now it's got an arrow, a star, a moon hanging from it. Now it's got a design that's all algorithmic. And what I want you to understand and sort of get disconnected from, literally, and I speak with an urgency and a passion because I know a lot of people are hurt by this. Their I am is devastated, destroyed, ruined, damaged, made for broken goods, told they're not good enough. Number one is rejected or they do not belong. The feeling of isolation. The feeling of you're not enough. Your speed, your technology, your thumb. I mean, what if you are a farmer of the heartland? You have insanely gorgeous crops of corn or cattle or horses or whatever it is you're growing, but you've got these big hands. You've had farmers for generations in your family, and now comes this little phone, and now maybe for some reason this little phone ain't working. Do you see? I mean, so what I'm trying to say is people can be really disabled, disgruntled, and disemboweled, meaning your sort of I am is taken out, as if your very I am. It doesn't exist in your pancreas. Well, they say each organ has its own personality, and you've got a number of these, whatever it is. They all the cells have their own function, but namely they all connect to, this belongs to you, fill in your name. Prince, the artist, all his cells of his body belong to him. Mick Jagger, all the cells of his body belong to him. Keith Richards, same thing. You, same thing. When you're taken over, like Napoleon Hill would say, Think and Grow Rich, basically the drink is drinking you. The device is dividing you. The device is creating a division. It's creating a separation. It's creating a false, sub relationship, sub account, as if it's like an account, a sub account. You might have a savings and then another, an I am, and then another, but it should all be sort of come together and get a little bit more together with time. I mean, you might have to take time to regroup, but you shouldn't have to still be entertaining the I'm not enough party vibes, music. What music, that TikTok, the self-image videos. Maybe you feel that they help you, but to what degree do they really inhibit you? Can you take your mind off of it and say, I am enough, and now I can go ahead professionally. Now I can go ahead and feel like I'm in a good relationship. Now I can have a family. Now I can become an artist. Now my art is good enough. Now my cooking is good enough. I am a chef. And then how do you bud out and how do you proliferate? I mean, those cells that we're talking about, let's just say Prince, the artist. I mean, incredible. I think everybody knows who he is. So he, started out and then he became, Picasso, same thing. They start out and then they become Mick Jagger in the 60s, you know, and then they grow, they change, they met, you the same way. You are a person as well, and believe it or not, you are as special. And you know what? Even more important, because it's you that's perceiving all these, whatever it is, whether it's, you know, your savior, whether it's the peace, whether it's the knowing, whether it's the ability to make a decision. Should I stay or should I go? Mick Jagger, start me up and never stop. I mean, be you, do you. If TikTok doesn't do you, then don't do TikTok. Do you see what I'm saying? It becomes, you'll know you're in a wrong relationship when it becomes a one-way street. When the device is dividing you. You know, when they're sort of taking control over you and you feel like you're acting for them, you know, it becomes an imposter. You know, there's no reason why you should have to be an imposter to a Facebook. You know, so what if the pictures, the coloring makes this? Hey, guess what? It's all real at some point. It's all real inside, but your perception, your talent, your inner gift, how is that going to be when you're always encasing it, shutting it down, or surrounded by environment, people, electronic platforms that don't acknowledge and validate that? They, in fact, they do the opposite. They reward you for not going ahead. They reward you for being silent. They reward you for being trapped, you know, and being more trapped, you know. I mean, you just beyond your will. You have things popping up. Activate now. Gold coins. What are you talking about? These are on all. I mean, technology. They can do whatever they want with you. TikTok. The psychopathic CEO leaders, they can do whatever they want with you. Look back. I mean, just research some of these platforms and the lack and how it mimics, you know, the lack of conscience, meaning they don't care. Okay, they do not have fear. They do not divide between right and wrong. It's all what they want, and they feel because they lack this inhibitory mechanism, which is like fear, anxiety, tension. They're so coolly relaxed in the most intensive situations. That's why oftentimes they advance in their fields, because they physically just aren't, they can metamorphosize to be just so chill and whatever, but they can also just metamorphosize into something completely different. I mean, unrecognizable. And they can portend or pretend to be completely different people and have double and triple lives. Just like the TikTok comes out with a one thing and then another, and then before you know, you're torn between platforms in this new one that they create or own, or the other one that they're in company. It mimics and parallels a lot of the relationships, the triangulation that we talk about here, where, you know, they disarm your good. Don't allow that good to see itself, you know, because that's kind of part of what relationships are, is they have to they should help you see yourself. Justin Timberlake, you know, we're citing a lot of songs coming back. It's just all flesh, you know, he had some sort of lyric about, you know, I'm never as big as I am when I'm with you, or something. I mean, so in other words, he feels when he gets around this person, he comes alive. Justin Timberlake feels like, you know, he thought he had some moves yesterday. Today, he's even got more funk, you know. When he sees, you know, he's with that person, it brings out the, you know. So, you know, oftentimes, these platforms have the ability to degrade and then bring you back up. I mean, in other words, you get a thumbs down, but there's a rejection. There's a lot of rejection going on, and true relationships, they don't try to capitalize on your fear. They don't try to play with your emotions. They don't, you know, they don't want you after the relationship to say, yeah, I've been played, I've been duped, I've been trapped, I've been conned, I've been taken, you know, I was green or whatever. Whatever. It does not matter. The problem is that then supplants, it's like takes the foundation of, like, literally in the DNA, in your feeling, in your growth, you know, and in the neuroplasticity of your mind. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about neuroplasticity and the ability to heal the mind, you know, and oftentimes that is done with the subconscious. It's not done with the mind, it's done with the subconscious, the healing, the, you know, it's the deep drive, you know, that you can't get to when you're always embedded, you know, emblazoned, ensconced in these type of relationships or relationship behaviors. I cannot tell you how many times, you know, people don't want to label it as addiction, you know, that you're driving, and I mean, people have maybe a dog right here on their leg. They've got their device right here, just, and they're looking down and accelerating at the same time. Who is driving the car? The person or the computer? Pretty soon the computer is going to be driving the car. Then what? It gives you more time to do what? Be on a computer? I mean, what are they extolling? What virtues are they helping you? What value are they adding? How are they helping you to actually shine as a organic person? Do you want, you know, and it becomes an imbalance, you know, the inorganic, the one that the psychopath wants you to be, someone other than yourself. And it comes as a very gradual, and usually you get that when all of a sudden, poof, they want a divorce. You know, they say, oh, they're very good. Well, yeah, because they do things to deceive. Okay? Deception. Look up the word. It's to, you know, cause you to believe in something that is not there. To cause, you know, have a relationship that you thought was real, and it couldn't be any further from the truth, but they will keep that going for however long. In other words, the relationship can mirror a lot of these relationships that exploit, take advantage, and really have kind of a predatory experience. And, you know, a lot of people, the problem is, you know, you're entering into a lot of emotional gambling. All these emojis to me are like these little reward coins. And, like, you know, in university, I studied psychology, and one of the things they're going to talk about, it almost sounds too simple. I mean, it almost sounds like it could be too preschool, but when you reinforce behavior, it tends to continue. So, you know, when you whatever it is that's being reinforced, rewarded, it tends to continue. So you tend to be rewarded for behavior that is not beneficial or is according to what they want your eyes or your whole organic self to be on. So you're giving your own eye movements away. I mean, I'm trying to get really intense because this concerns me, and hence the channel, especially for our young people. So I really want our young people to realize that, and, you know, how many, you know, if you can kind of understand the very, very fertile ground, the rich ground that is very open for planting, you know, for a psychopath, it's just like low-hanging fruit where they can just, you know, scrape up and all these people, followers, their information, their attention, be, you know, I mean, it's the device, you know, which is another machine, becomes like a combatant with you. You know, the man in the machine, this has been going on for a long time. And a lot of people don't want to work in these jobs or call places because machines are taking the place of people. You call somewhere, it's a machine to a machine to a machine to a bot to a link. But if, you know, but for all they care, you're going to do more of the work. You're going to dress to impress. You're going to live to be what they want. You know, it's a reinforcement, but that is breaking you down. It's like a hollow, you know, rather than it being a true bond and close relationship in the blood, in the emotions, in the heart of your being, in the very, very energy of your being. Is where they deceive, is in the energy, I mean, the very, very energy. So it doesn't get broken down any more than that. You know, your energy, your behavior, the way you act, you know, in other words, you know, you would see people, you know, in the 1700s, I mean, they weren't doing the same type of dancing, you know, that people do. They weren't doing the same type of singing. Now listen to the singing, listen to the dancing. It's totally, you know, and all these behaviors are newly taught. Well, what if all the music videos had nothing but, you know, they condition people to behave in the way that you behave. So you have to really realize what is the true I am, and to get to know that and not be in a battle with it. Man versus man, man versus the machine. And then the psychopath, once again, we're talking about, you know, how can you kind of tell? And we're going to, you know, I don't know if you guys go long here, but, you know, or how good it is to go long. But what I want to say is that oftentimes, you know, you're devalued by these relationships within a longer period of time. In other words, they continue to sort of make the criticisms, to make the remarks. Meanwhile, they're supposed to be, you know, the polished one. And they're always just sort of saying, I am, and, you know, and so there's this, you know, energetic wall that you can't penetrate. And you cannot basically have a relationship, but they'll make it seem like your fault because you're, you know, there's something about you. And it's just, and then maybe it's something that could be good about you, and then they play it again. You know, it's a continual battle. So there's a lot of this rhythm, which can be very disturbing. And then you're doing the, excuse me, I should have brought some water. You're doing the I'm disturbed dance, you know, whatever face, whatever, you know, trouble you find yourself in. Sometimes it's okay to say enough is enough, or it's okay to say no, and reject. Just say not good for me, you know, and to know that you know better. In other words, to say no to being played, whether it's a really big entity, meaning a big company, or a small one, just a small, you know, store or group of people. And the problem is that oftentimes it doesn't seem like you're going with the right crowd if you're just saying no. Oh boy, does it make you look bad if you're not going around with the group, the posse, whatever it is. You're not, you know, getting the likes, the news going fast enough in Facebook. You're not you know, whatever it is, the algorithm, you know, that you're trying to feed, yours is going to go unfed. So as soon as they're feeding these algorithms, they're starving out others. So, and people feel starved out by these relationships, unnourished, broken down, not built up by, you know, they feel, and it's judgment, and, you know, so ultimately a foundation of fear, judgment, criticism, and hence measuring up. So if it's this, in other words, you're looked down upon. They're creating a caste society. You're looked down upon. You know, and you're being judged. Your character is being judged by something which you have no control over. You're being emotionally discriminated against then by this. There's no culpability or accountability. There's not enough people who go, yeah, well, this is just how it's going to be. There is, I can't talk to a person at the grocery store. I can't talk to a person
for this internet. You know, I can't get a hold of and ask my, you know, so you end up feeling, you know, played. But, you know, the companies, they have no problem with that, you know. And so if you look at like some of these events that have gone on, and that were allowed to go on as late as 2000, I mean, I'm sure this year, but, you know, even in 2016, you look at that Cambridge Analytica, you know, companies are later fined billions, you know, billions with a B. That's over 999 million of a fine, you know. And a lot of these, you know, what people don't realize is if you look at the top, oftentimes those top people are antisocial, but, you know, meaning psychopathic. They don't really have a fear. It's okay to move fast and break things, which is just basically hit and run. Take the money and go. Get the hug, the kiss, you know, the whatever, the deal, and go. You're taken for a dummy. You're taken for a decoy. You're taken for a blow-up doll or pillow. You're taken for them to play with. Specifically rewarding then is to see the anguish that you might then go through. You know, negative comments, getting incensed, getting inflamed, using the platform more, you know, so it's a lot of these triggers which are, you know, become very inorganic to live and go, you know, generate sustenance, happiness, to be sustainable in nature. I've been talking about the psychopath relationship as unsustainable, almost as if like climate control. It literally, the resources, your atomic resources will run out. The psychopath knows this. They sort of know you better than you know yourself. And isn't that grand? Well, it really is. You know, because a lot of people are temporarily have these great relationships or great spurts in their life that could have been because, but they never give credit to themselves. Because this person, you know, they were rewarded. They don't own any sort of I am. They're oftentimes defer to someone else or something. Maybe it's your higher self, but people need to begin to own it. Own some of your accomplishments. People are oftentimes refusing it because a psychopath oftentimes doesn't want to reinforce that behavior to have it continue and grow, because, you know, you might be good enough to see through them. You might have to disembark from a relationship. You might, whatever. You know what. And you can put the comments. I mean, there's always some, basically, a psychopath will describe it as the, you know, yes, I get contacted by these people, you know, who pretend to be whatever. The psychopath will tell you that they want to be, that they are like a train wreck that you can't take your eyes off of. In other words, you want to keep seeing where it's going to go. You know, how many of you had started out your career, I want my life to be a train wreck and see where it's going to go. Meaning it's a wreck, but I'm just going to stay in there just to see how it's going to go. I don't think most of us are setting out on a relationship with someone saying, I'm going to just set myself up for failure and have a parasite live on or off me, take its sustenance from my being, from my attention, from my palm, my thumbs, my eyes, my very emotions, and drag me through the digital mud, the digital dust, the digital disgust, whatever it is you want to call it, but they will make you be disgusted with yourself. Disgust, you know, and then this is a really bad place to live. You can have a beautiful house, but man, if you're living in emotional disgust, I mean, look at some of the headlines on some of our folks that we would love to protect, like your Britney Spears, like your, you know, all this other, I mean, my gosh, right? I mean, you can basically see people falling apart. I mean, you can see people's, you know, basically their eyebrows falling off. They're so emotionally a wreck. They're coming apart. They don't smile anymore. They look dead. They're emotionally traumatized. They are worn out. They have been played. They've been taken for a ride when they were the you know, they were all, you know, that it was supposed to be. Do you see how they will use what, and this can go on for a very long period of time or a very intense short period of time. And it becomes very conditional, meaning, you know, like the love between, you know, people should be unconditional. You know, like, you know, if you're not perfect, you're not pointing something out. Or if you're looking good, they might say, hey, you look amazing. They don't say, you know, they're not jealous. They're not, you know, trying to play you and push, you know, get themselves feeling good by putting you down, you know, getting more, hey, this is, you know, and that's how their relationships go. They will really rip one out apart till you can see your emotional muscle just ripping, your emotional tendons just popping, and, you know, your bones basically coming apart. Like, basically you feel like you're, you know, emotionally having a hardship. So it's this sort of disbelief, disgust, abandonment, freak out, that they sort of want you to go into this minefield, even though I would be wanting to guess that you have probably been there to support them or given a part of your life to this person, and, you know, sort of didn't get that there was another whole flip side that you weren't privy to, that they had deceived. I mean, basically like a stealth, you know, airline, you know, fooling you under your nose. That's what they love to do, where it's like so close that you could get caught, but they've got you like right there, you know, and they're sort of putting in a new note that shouldn't be in your organic rhythm. Oftentimes it's disharmonic, it's clashing, and so you then feel that you are a disturbance, you are a disruption, you are an obstacle, you're, you know, what are you, you know, just a stoop to stand on? I mean, you know, basically, are you just someplace for them to hang their hat and then they leave in the morning? I mean, basically, and, you know, how most people could not live is how they do live. So, you know, there's, you know, so I think, you know, and it's not like, like maybe an athlete who's like an Olympian and they live and condition and train, you know, and live a life that most people could not do because they have a natural inclination. But a psychopath is kind of different. They emotionally don't have any fear, just sort of fear. I mean, so if they don't have fear, so most thing like on the 10 Commandments, you know, they don't have fear. If you could read like the rule book of what could get you in big trouble, they're just like, you could be saying banana cream pie, fudgesicles, cherries, lemon lime, dessert drink, or would you like a sundae? I mean, that's how they register it in a complete, so it's kind of like they have like x-ray emotions, or what you would consider like, maybe you've seen like how ultraviolet things, you know, like a stealth they can see, or like animals can see in the night because they're adapted. It's kind of like they can see through people, and they can just tell, I can pick that one out from, I can take that one, you know, and then they just, you know, they can do the old dump, you know, and then you're kind of feel like you have to pick yourself up, you know, and this becomes a cycle, you know, where then you sort of willingly then want to get back on. This becomes, you know, just sort of self-damaging, and you don't want to go there. So the relationship, the problem once again is that the relationship is sort of defertilizing you, if you will. So you have to, and I talk about this in the book that I'm working on, which is, you know, you have to resensitize, but you have to take ownership back of that real limbic part of yourself and reclaim the prefrontal cortex, which is able to have a vision for a future. It's that part of you that has been destroyed every time, you know, there's been someone cheating on you, lying to you, deceiving you, hiding from you. They're secretive without having to try. They lie on the daily for no reason. They misguide. You know, they go this way. You know, they take you into doing all sorts of different things just for a moment. You know, and even though for you it's like you think you're solidifying the relationship, no, you're ungluing yourself with every step forward. Like you think you're graduating, you're really sort of dismembering your own anatomy emotionally to the point where you don't feel whole, or you don't feel like the right and the left hand are working together. Things start feeling really off, and you're kind of you're feeling like you don't know where to go. And people usually go back to the source of the problem, which is the phone, the Instagram, whatever it is. They're trying to get back something that they feel that they lost, when in essence you have to realize they've just sort of taken a lot of this being energy, peace energy, harmonic energy. They sort of have taken that ability from you and allowed that to be usurped or taken out. Just like when you plant, you know, vegetables or whatever, flowers, they take nutrients, they leach the soil. So they sort of leach, you know, but they then, you know, say the leaching is from you. Even though you were giving love to them, that's no currency. You know, it's no truth and love and commitment. That's no currency. You thought that that was the highest currency of all, is to be that, to, you know, look up to them and to, you know, no, that's where your life is on default. You're basically defaulting from your life every time. And then it becomes unnatural for you to have your own. You become foreign to the self. The body starts breaking itself down. You know, immune problems, autoimmune problems, health problems, digestion. As you get older, you know, this might register, but a lot of that accumulates. So being good to yourself accumulates. Being bad to yourself also accumulates. Being rejected, being hated, being lied to, being treated as though it was okay to be lied to, given incorrect information. You are whatever. You're just the secretary. You're just the whatever, the quick whatever. You're just the mother of my children. You're just the girl next door. You're just the girl or guy at the office. You're just on this, you know, there's sort of you know, dismissing of you, even though you might have given years, decades, value, whatever it was. None of that will be reflected in their picture book of your relationship. It'll be them, and then it'll be them again, and then it'll be them again, and it'll be them again. And there'll be no witness to you, as if the relationship just didn't even exist. It just disintegrated. It was just, you had no footprint. You had no being. Your foot wasn't pretty enough to be on whatever. You're maybe the type of, I don't know, elbow skin that you have just doesn't measure up. Maybe your heel just has the wrong shape, or maybe there's something wrong with your collarbone or whatever. They will find whatever a problem with, and they will make a big deal. And the thing is, the trauma will begin to attract itself, and that the mind will then get categorically reinforced to continue to pay attention to that negative, meaning that you accept, in psychology it's called negative validation. Just like when you see someone who has anorexia, they might seem like they're, thriving, and they're trying to be as happy, and they're like 80 pounds, and they're still just on some sort of endorphin, but they're on a negative validation. They have a poor body image. Their I am is damaged. I mean, if you're talking, that you've been so rejected that you can't even own flesh on your bones, that's tough. That's a real tough place to be. That it's so painful you can't even own the flesh that you're in. Be it the way it feels, the way you feel, separate from clothing. I mean, I recommend, if you've really been through this, you need to get comfortable. Stop with the holding your breath and not, letting your hair move, and to always be hyper vigilant. I mean, that is not love. That is not joy. That is not making sure you have a commitment in a relationship. And don't be fooled, and don't be fooled that a lot of this technology can supplant, getting together or really having truth, in your life, because they will make it seem you're asking too much. It's okay to be virtual. It's okay to just, we just don't have, we have infidelity. That's just how it is, he works so hard, or she would, you can't find enough, whatever excuses that are bolstering that up, uncheck those, okay? Uncheck. And get back, and we're going to sort of talk more about this, but, and we're going to be moving to, Patreon, where maybe we can have some more vital discussions, because sometimes, in certain formats, you can't have these discussions. It's considered, too intense. But where else are you going to have a recourse to talk to people about and resolve some of these things so that you can see it for what it is? Because you have to be able to come to terms and say, I am coming to terms, and I own, this, and meaning it's okay to really own yourself and not be, it's not okay to be ignored. It's not okay for them to do nothing. And even though they might have other things going on that make them the authority, no, it doesn't. In your eyes, in your heart, and in your gut, you have to know where the authority truly is. And there's in a truth that And even though you've seen, it's okay to have, to be able to have what you might consider a degraded view of them. Oftentimes letting that go is very threatening, because that is what has ruled your roost for so long. So a lot of people, it has to be a gradual letting go and really coming back to themselves. And rather than, being in that sort of beholden relationship, but come back and be a support and that to yourself, in a different way, where your I am has a chance to breathe. It's very, and stop cloaking discomfort with comfort, and stop cloaking unhappiness with not getting your needs met, not being acknowledged, so a lot of those things you need to be able to speak up with out in the open, and addressing that out in the open, so that your environment can then begin to reflect the changes. So, and that is your energy, which is gonna come streaming out. But oftentimes it's very difficult to, to stop that direction. So maybe you need to stop it slowly, but gradually, but even just being able to see it and saying, I don't want to become beholden to that lie, to that fallacy, or to that mistreatment of me. I don't want to become beholden to that mistreatment of me, because people begin to embrace being sabotaged, and they wonder why things, you know, because there's still part of them that they feel that as a vital part of their identity that's still getting, that is still getting attached, that is still getting fed, you know, that they're still allowing. And in other words, there's a part of yourself that you don't really afraid to have compacted straight within you. You know, there's not that alignment of the energy centers. The head is down, the body is sloped down, the shoulders are rounded down. If you can tell your body by your carriage, and just check in with that during the day and see how your body is feeling, you know, because oftentimes that's the truth teller, you know, and oftentimes you don't want to, you know, sometimes you don't want to know what you know, but sometimes you have to know what you know. It's okay to know what you know, and it's okay to know that you know what you know, that 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 you know. So you really, at some point, and then that is knowledge, and then that is power, and that is going to serve you, and I think help you to see some different great parts of yourself that you've been afraid to see, look at, and sort of embody, because some force maybe didn't want you to be able to shine, grow. If something predatory was there that disrupted that, then you have to say that predatory influence was there that disrupted that. And you have to kind of get that out of the way. You have to be able to literally move it out of the way, because it'll take up a lot of space and a lot of energy in your being, in your core. And your core is when you can, where you continue to have that fountain from of your emotions. You know, your emotions are kind of like a fountain springing forth. It can be like the fountain of youth, but sometimes the fountain of youth can have a lot of, who knows what they've put in there. It's something magical, it's an enigma, it's a mystery, but you're more special. You're more important than that or any other device. I just want to let you guys know that. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Remember that to understand what is predatory, and then where are you then needing to hollow out and receive the good for you, and to not be afraid of that. People have probably been, if you've been in a narcissist or a relationship for that long, you've probably been pushing away a lot of happiness, a lot of good, a lot of relaxation, a lot of calm, a lot of good decisions, a lot of good visions, dreams, and sort of getting yourself there in a peaceful and harmonic way that isn't, you know, all these ups and downs and slashes and whatever, you know, that are no longer cool, desirable, or to be put up with. You know, at some point, enough is enough, and you are always enough. Your personality, your smile, your own charm that grows and proliferates, just like we're talking about the cells of whoever, you know, the DNA of, you know, of some of the greatest people, they are also coming from that same space of owning the I am, and owning the I am as it gets to the higher levels of grace, of safety, of trust, of allowing to shine, and allowing sort of things to flip so that you can see the good in yourself and have that rewarded, and not continue to push it away, because those are negative habits and behaviors that are subconsciously picked up. So beyond your knowing or conscious awareness, that is what's scary. You can watch, You Are Not a Gadget, by the gentleman Jared Lanier, who was the forefather of virtual reality. Jared Lanier, he was voted one of Time's most 100 influential people. And he is amazing. Okay, he has these dreadlocks that are growing from his head down to his feet. He's a genius. Just check him out here on YouTube or wherever, but get to know some of his understanding of artificial intelligence, because it's in our it's in our lifetimes. You know, and it's something to become aware of and just sort of go like, okay, that's, you know, that's that puddle. I'm either going to step in it, or I don't want to get messed up, so I'm not going to step in that puddle. My emotions aren't going to go that way. I'm going to go this way, and you just redirect. You have to reframe and say, okay, that was, you know, that was the party. That was the time being. That was that was not a knight in shining armor, or that was, you know, it's okay to reframe it, or that was me going too wild, or that was something, whatever, inappropriate, but give it a reframing. That was, you know, just a masterpiece of me sowing my oats, or something like that. Give it a name or a title so you can reframe it in a better way. You know, and just don't be gouged out, because they will, you know, and with time it becomes more intense and more compressed. So remember, you know, that oftentimes it has that subconscious. So this is where we need to go to actually heal and, you know, and get back to the bottom line of the bottom line of the bottom line. Really just sort of get back to the I am, that is super grounded, that is super cool, that has, you know, a balance of life and makes good decisions, but furthermore has that prefrontal cortex engaged, which means you're able to dream again, you're able to plan again, you're able to have someone in your life in the next time being without being threatened, afraid, or worried that it's gonna, you know, be something's gonna go wrong, and because you're now owning that I am in kind of a positive, you're getting to experiment with a positive sense that I could be acceptable, okay. You know, how about I'm just not chopped liver? I mean, you can start small until like, I totally am awesome in all ways, shapes, and forms, and that's what makes me amazing. And so if you can accept that and say that and own that, that makes everything else come to life. And it's better when everything, you know, comes back to life and you're sort of back online versus sort of being taken off asunder and whatever sort of, you know, what can be, you know, just be satisfied with a hayride or something different, and not that sort of triggered to the allure. A good relationship doesn't have to start out and have a middle and an end just like that. And you don't have to be told you're all these other things that you are not. This is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today. And as always, I hope these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussions, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day. And say, I am good. I am great. I am all that, and I am good, orderly direction, and I'm looking forward. I have something to look forward, and I am in good, orderly direction for all that magnificence that I want to manifest and bring. It will come to me as long as I keep my eyes and my heart open and keep away from the other diluting or distracting elements, energetic even situations that causes that to be dissembled within me. And I own that all the way up as far as the eye can see. Have a beautiful day.